Hi, good evening, and welcome to the second webinar of 2021, coming live this evening from the UK and also Portugal. Tonight we're trying something a little different, a little less informal, and something which we are hoping will inspire in these trying times. If all goes well, then tonight should be entertaining and more interactive than any of our previous webinars. We're honoured to be joined this evening by CTI and Red Bull athlete Andrew Cotton. Andrew Cotton is one of the world's most respected big wave surfers, basing himself in Portugal and West Island. For much of the big wave season, he also travels the globe surfing some of the biggest and heaviest waves on the planet. So thanks to Andrew for joining us this evening. As this is a little less formal, we're going to try something new. And at this point, I'd normally go through the housekeeping to let you know about Q&As and certificates and how to communicate with us. But the only thing really to note this evening is we're going to try and give you the chance to ask Andrew questions directly. So if you could put your questions into the Q&A function at the bottom as normal, and then we will try and unmute you, and you can ask your questions to Andrew directly so we can start that conversation. But please do make sure your mics are working on your device before we unmute you. So to get things going, I'm just going to introduce Andrew and Giles this evening. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, mate. How's it going? All right?
Yeah, not bad. How are you?
Good, thank you.
And Giles, who's in his shed in Manchester.
Yeah, so we're going to try and get a few questions from you guys. So I'll be sat in the background tapping away, looking at your questions. So please get them through, and you'll see it's fascinating what Andrew's going to be talking about. So you know, we'll get a few of those questions as we go through.
Yeah. So normally we put the Q&A and then Giles would ask them to the speaker. But if you put the Q&A, the question into the Q&A box, we can find you, unmute you, and then you can ask Andrew directly the question. So how's things in Portugal, Andrew?
Yeah, it's good. It's been we had quite a cold spell last week, but it's all warmed up a little bit now, and it looks like we're gonna have a bit of a run of good waves as well. So yeah,
you're surfing today, I think. Yeah,
surfing today. Yeah. It's been you know, I've been surfing. Been fortunate to surf most days, really.
And the COVID restrictions over there, is that still allowing you to surf?
Yeah, you got to keep local. So yeah, there's sort of like everyone's keeping local. You can still surf. They're still like encouraging sort of outdoor activities, you know. So, and luckily, you know, surfing's you know,
in the fresh air.
All good.
Good stuff. So for the audience tonight, Andrew's going to do a presentation to tell you his story, which I'm sure will inspire some questions. So at that point, I'll pass over to Andrew. I think, Giles, you've got his presentation. We can share that presentation. Yeah. And over to you, Andrew.
Cool. So yeah, feels. Hang on, here we go. How do I do this? Okay, there we go.
There you go.
So this is pretty strange talking to the computer screen like this, but so yeah, my name is Andrew Cotton. I'm a professional big wave surfer, but I actually I grew up in North Devon, and this is me learning to surf at the age of 8 at Croyd Bay, and pretty much this is where like the start of my obsession with surfing began. And I pretty much wanted to be, I suppose, like like most kids, like, you know, you want to be a professional athlete or professional footballer, and I wanted to be a professional surfer pretty much from like day one. And it was all I thought about during school. But you get to that point when you're leaving school, and you do the dreaded careers advice. You're asked like what you want to be or what you want to do. And when I told my careers officer I wanted to be a professional surfer, I was pretty much just like laughed out of the room. It was like, you know, it's not in the boxes. You can't do that. It's not a job. So I left school at 16, pretty disheartened, but I actually managed to get a job in a local surfboard factory, which for me was like the dream job. It was like being a professional surfer and also working, you know, within my passion, and earning some money. And like you know, surfboard, the industry was quite seasonal. So we were obviously really busy during the summer and relatively quiet in the winter, which enabled us to travel most winters. So I traveled a lot. And yeah, and the work was flexible, so I surfed a lot during the summer, and surfed when the waves were good. And it was actually, so this is on my first trip, winter trip to Hawaii when I was 18, and it was probably actually this trip or the trip after actually realised what my real passion was within surfing, and so this is Kelly Slater, actually in Portugal a few years ago. Absolutely insane surfing. Okay, it's fast, it's like athletic, it's quick, it's like it's in the air. It's everything that I wanted to do, but everything I couldn't do. It was like, this is the contest sort of surfing, which I really aspired to do, but I was just hopeless at small wave surfing. And it was in Hawaii where I found my strengths, and that was more like big wave surfing, and that was more committed lines, straight lines. And when I was surfing with some of my friends who were technically a lot better surfers than me, I noticed that when the waves got bigger, like our levels sort of evened out a little bit, and that sort of really sort of motivated me. It made me want to pursue big waves more, but it was always just sort of like a hobby, really. So it was in Hawaii where I probably had my first I don't know, like, it was like a turning point. It was something that really it was a turning point for me, really. And so this is a picture of Waimea Bay, and I don't know if there's any surfers listening, but Waimea is like the holy grail of big wave surfing, and it was like the place, the proving ground when I was a kid, and I found myself at Waimea Bay on one of the biggest days of the year when I was about 19, and I was definitely like way out of my depth. Like, I was absolutely petrified. There was about 50 guys out. I was the furthest on the shoulder, just sort of questioning what I was doing. The waves were about 20 feet, 25 feet, and a couple of sets had already closed out the whole bay. So it was like on the scale of being almost too big for the the premier big wave spot. And as this set approached, the horizon goes sort of grey. You sort of see like a set of, like, they usually come in like 6 or 7 waves. The whole pack of surfers sitting out back started scratching for the horizon, like literally everyone sprint paddling. And I can remember thinking, like I just don't want to get caught by one of these waves. I just don't want to get caught, one of the waves breaking in front of me. I didn't want to be out there. I didn't want to catch a wave. I just wanted to be safe. And so I just followed the pack, and I, trying to keep up with everyone. And I turned around and I saw one guy. So there's like 50 surfers in the water. One guy was paddling completely the opposite way. And I'm like, what? Like, I was head down paddling, looked across, and so there's one guy paddling completely the other way. And I was like, what's this guy doing? Like, he's obviously insane or lost, or hasn't got a clue what he's doing. And as we paddled over the first wave of the set of waves, which was probably the biggest wave of the set, I was sort of, my heart was sort of like racing. I was sort of relieved to get over the wave. And I looked around and I could see this one guy who actually was Ross Clark-Jones. He's a professional, a really famous big wave surfer. I saw him paddling to the biggest wave I'd ever seen surfed at that point. And it just sort of resonated with me, like that moment, like how he had the commitment and the courage and the knowledge to completely do the opposite of what everyone else was doing in the ocean at that time. And it sort of, and I went home. I actually ended up getting a wave that day. We got to the beach. I was just stoked. We got one wave, survived. But that memory, it wasn't the wave that I caught that day. It was the sort of memory of watching Ross Clark-Jones sort of paddle into this wave and just, you know, completely go against the grain of what everyone else was doing. So that was the sort of like the thing that stood with me and motivated me about big wave surfing. So I worked in the surf industry for about 10 years after leaving school. And about 25, I started to get probably like pressure from parents, probably most of all really, was, you know, when are you going to get a real job? You know, that scenario. So I actually went back to the careers office and I sat down, and again, they sort of gave me a list of, you know, possible jobs, and I went through them, and I ended up crossing the box plumber. So I went back to college, retrained as a plumber, and I ended up getting an apprenticeship, and after about 3 years, and got a proper job. It was all good. It was underfloor heating, layered underfloor heating, and solar panels, and it was like the dream. It was a dream job, you know. Like I was on a salary and whatnot. But after about, I don't know, like 6 months of when I say like proper job, like you know, it's just like a 9 to 5, but you know, but I just realised, you know, like my heart and soul wasn't in fitting toilets or in plumbing or like pipe fittings or anything like that, and there's not that there was anything wrong with it. Like it just wasn't my passion. And I worked with guys who absolutely dreamt and loved and lived and breathed pipes, you know, and fittings, and they were really, really good plumbers and they loved their work. But my heart and soul just wasn't into it. And I sort of, the more I sort of was doing it, the more I was like I can't do this till I'm 60. Like this is never gonna, like, I was like 29 and I was like there's no way that I can be laying, you know, fitting toilets and laying underfloor heating until I'm 60. And every day I went to work, I just thought about this, sort of about big waves, committed lines, you know, maybe even, you know, maybe the surf industry was what I should be getting back into and what I should be doing. But really what I wanted to do was surf, you know, I want to surf big waves. And about this time, one of my friends in Ireland, who also was a keen surfer, and he was a keen, you know, he liked pushing, you know, big wave surfer. Although at this time we were far from what I would say what big wave surfers, but he had just bought a jet ski, and we'd been looking on YouTube at Laird Hamilton and a few of his mates towing into Jaws, which was like minds blown, you know, like, whoa, these guys are using jet skis and they're towing into these huge waves in Hawaii. Like, we want to do that. Like, that's what I want to do. So he was like, yeah, I've got a jet ski, come to Ireland, like, how hard can it be? So I quit my job, and the first big wave swell hit Ireland. I flew over and I went to a place called Mullet Moor, and this was my first attempt at trying to tow Alwyn on a jet ski, which it went very bad very quickly. And I realised actually it was a lot harder than it looked on YouTube, you know. I'll just play that again if you want. So this is like a famous big wave spot in Ireland, which is, you know, but then there was hardly anyone trying to do it, and it was just like trial and error, and it was way more difficult than it looked.
Did the jet ski survive, Andrew?
That's exactly my question too.
It didn't sink. So it was a horrific wipeout. I managed to get back on the ski on the inside, but it didn't start. And what actually happened then is I thought I'd try and swim the jet ski back to the harbour, which isn't very far away, but it was gale force offshore. And within about 40 minutes, I was probably halfway to America. It was a nightmare. It was, yeah, it's a long story, that one. I won't get too into it, but yeah, it was an interesting afternoon in Ireland, that's for sure. But it was funny. It was just as, you know, like the online forums started, like the surf forums, and I got absolutely destroyed, like in the online forums. Like, this guy's a kook, this guy should give up, what's he thinking, leave it to the pros, you know, all that sort of stuff. And that was kind of hard, you know, like reading all those sort of comments and like thinking, oh no, what am I doing? I've just quit my job as a plumber to try and be a big wave surfer, and I've completely, like, it's just gone all wrong straight away. But we got another jet ski, and we continued. You know, we got back at it, and we started catching a few waves in Ireland. And it was about 2010. I had an email. I think actually it was my mate Al Many. He had an email from a guy called Garrett McNamara saying he just rocked up to a place called Nazaré in Portugal, which is where I am now. And he was like, "It's pretty big. Do you guys fancy coming down to help me? You know, to have some, you know, to help me surf some waves. You know, but it's pretty big and it's pretty serious." And we were like, "No, come to Ireland." And he actually ended up persuading us to come to Nazaré. So this is like, the photo here is like a classic, you know, Nazaré day. You can't even tell how big that is. That's giant. You know, you got the lighthouse in the front, you've got the giant waves. And it was definitely, you know, I think one of the things that Garrett said was like, how are you at driving jet skis? And, you know, are you capable of like rescuing in a beach break? And obviously we just said, yeah, we're great. But I was so out of my depth. Like, I really, really was absolutely, you know, I was taking on a lot. I wasn't that confident. But I just knew it was the only opportunity I was ever going to get, you know, to work with, you know, someone I, you know, perceived to be or thought was one of the best big wave surfers in the world. And to get some of his knowledge. So we went, and yeah, never looked back really. So this is like from one of the first times we went. Very quickly, my job was to do safety for Garrett, and then after a few years doing safety, I started towing him around. And all the time, like, I was like a sponge, you know, like for me, it was great. It was just like all this knowledge and information, and, you know, and I could feel my confidence and my skill level just rising the whole time. And I knew that he couldn't surf the whole time. And Garrett's like, he loves surfing and he loves driving the jet ski. So I'd tow him and he'd tow me, and, you know, and then I started getting a lot of big waves. So this photo is from one of the first really big days in 2013. The classic view, the lighthouse, the big wave in front of the lighthouse. There's a guy on the wave. I'm not sure you can see him. There's a Brazilian guy called Pedro Scooby. But this is me swimming here, just down in the foreground in front of the lighthouse. And I think this is probably one of the most scariest situations I'd found myself in at that point. And it was kind of ironic. It was definitely one of the biggest days we'd seen at that point. And we said to ourselves, we have like a team talk before we surf. And we said to ourselves, okay, you know, we're pushing the boundaries here. This is probably the biggest we've surfed it. Let's not surf right in front of the lighthouse, right in front of the cliff. Definitely don't go on the first wave of the set. And definitely don't go right. And obviously, we found ourselves right in front of the cliff. I got the first wave of the set, and I went right. But to top it all off, I fell to make it even worse. So as I fell, it's just like going, oh no, this is a really bad place to fall. I got, like, you know, you get them smashed and you come up, and I can remember coming up and just seeing probably the biggest, like a 60-foot wave, like about to break on my head. Knowing that no one could get me, no one could rescue me, and knowing that I was only probably like, 60 to 100 meters away from the cliff. And I think at that whole point then, you just realize how, like everything's on the line, and there's no like pressing pause or blowing the whistle, like, time out. It was like all or nothing, and these are the things that you train for. But it's also a really good, it's all about mind, like not losing it, like not losing, because no matter what, you can, your emotions and your fears can take over, but what's the point? There was no point, and it was about trusting in like my team going to actually come in and get me at some point and help me out, but also trusting in myself and all the training that I did, and believing that I could take a 60-foot wave on the head. And yeah, I can remember like being actually petrified, but to somehow managed to keep a level, taking the wave on the head, which was horrible, but really violent, like not knowing how long you'd be underwater for. But then I can remember popping up, and my safety team guy, Hugo Val, was straight there. He was like, I was on the ski. He rescued me literally like meters from the cliff. Yeah, and then it was all good. So a year later, there was another one of the biggest swells, and actually this image and this wave was a turning point in my career. So it was another giant day, and again, like every storms, there always seems to be like the next biggest storm, and this was it, and this was like the biggest day I would ever seen. I think it was a crazy big storm in the Atlantic, and again, so this is me going right in front of the cliff, at Nazaré, and this image, it shot around the world with the, I think it was like plumber surf's biggest wave ever or something crazy like that. That was the tagline, like plumber surf's biggest wave ever. And I was at this point, like I was plumbing part-time, I was doing lifeguarding, and I was, surfing as much as I could, but I was far from, earning any money or professional surfer. But this image definitely helped me to, put my career to the next level. So, I'm not sure how this. Oh, right. Okay. Oh, okay. How do I go back?
Just click left. There you go. I'll take you back.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So, but behind that that image is team, and no one sees that. Everyone just sees a surfer, but you can't do any of this stuff by yourself. It takes teamwork, and I think that's this image sort of sums up. Like this is Garrett and this is Hugo. So Garrett was driving the ski that day, and he put me into the biggest wave of my life, and Hugo, has always been there doing safety and backup, and these are like the unsung heroes. But it all goes around. Like we all drive the ski, we all do safety. Everyone has their 5 minutes of glory, so to speak, on the rope and catching the waves, but we all chip in. So yeah, this is our team.
Can you tell us a little bit about the kit you've got there? I mean, obviously you can see the jet ski, and then obviously you can see the equipment behind and things like that. So what have you got there to get you there? So
Nazaré is quite a unique place. So the jet skis are obviously really important when the surf's that big. It's important to get in like surfing waves, but also for safety. So it's irrelevant whether you're paddle surfing or tow surfing. They're really important for safety. You can see a radio there, so we all have radio comms. So there'd be 2 jet skis in the water in each team, a backup safety ski, and obviously the tow ski, and they'll have radio comms. But we'd also have a spotter on the cliff who would be like making calls, sort of telling the safety guy, or Andrew's gone left, he's fallen off, he's in the white water, he's drifting towards the cliff, he's like drifted north, like he'll just be making those sort of calls. And then personal safety, you can see we're all wearing flotation, like normal flotation, but you'll also see we've got like cords coming out. Like Garrett has got a couple cords coming out his neck, by his neck, and that's an inflatable vest. So if he thinks he's really deep or going to be really held under a long time, he can pull that cord, and it literally just the vest just explodes, and it gives you loads of extra lift. So they're really, they're really amazing bits of kit to keep you safe. So yeah, and you can see the surfboard there as well, which has straps in. So even though standard surfboards don't have straps, but the tow boards, you're going so fast, you're going probably up to speeds of probably like 70, 80 kilometers an hour going down those waves. So straps are really, really useful. And to help you deal with the speeds and keep your feet to the board. Okay, so we go to the next. So yeah, this is the geeky sort of side of surfing, big wave surfing. This is the classic low pressure chart, Atlantic, like the weather chart, and this is like the dream setup for me. A nice big low in the Atlantic, and when I sort of see these weather charts, this is when I'd sort of be thinking of, okay, right, where can I go? Where will I want to go? Where's going to be big waves and good weather? So the classic, the Nazare is definitely gets some of the biggest waves in the world, gets the biggest waves in the world, but also there's some amazing waves in France, northern Spain, and also in Ireland, get some really, really big waves. So the next slide. So this is actually a couple of years ago. It's actually a similar chart to what we just saw there in the previous slide. It was early November, and you don't get those. You might get a storm like that once a year, maybe once every couple of years. So they're quite unique weather patterns, which produce waves of this size. And on this day, it was one of those days which I knew was going to be, go down in history and be, exceptionally big. And on this, I think this is my fourth wave of the day. I took a particularly critical line. And like anything, like you're playing with Mother Nature, you never know how it's going to go. And this one went from probably looking like one of the best waves of my life to very quickly looking like the worst, or being the worst of my life. You can see I got shot out. I actually I faded. When I checked the waves in the morning, that morning, I was with Garrett and Hugo, and I saw these really amazing lefts, like they look really perfect, big and hollow. And I just visualized like how I'd surf them and what I wanted to do, and I wanted to get I want to get a really, really big barrel, and that's like riding inside the wave. Like every surfer's dream is to get a barrel, but to get like a 60-foot barrel is like the ultimate goal, and that's what I was sort of visualizing on this wave, and I can remember like very vividly coming into this wave and thinking, oh, this is it. This is the wave that I was. This is one of the waves that I saw this morning. Like this is the one. And I just put all my eggs, like to put everything. It's like being in Vegas, everything on black. Like right, this is it. And it can go, and that's that's just how it is. You put I was committed so hard, and it was going so well, and then just like that, the wave changed, and it went from looking like the best wave to the worst. It sort of fattened out. I hit I think as I come off the bottom, like I fade, and then I do another little fade to try and get a little bit deeper. So I was going to be definitely as deep as I could be, and then hopefully be in the barrel. And then as I came off the bottom, there was like a weird bit of backwash on the wave, which made me lose all my speed. And then I was just like, okay, this is just the worst spot I could ever be in. And I knew I was done. And there's nothing you can do. and then it was like there was no impact. I felt a moment of like weightlessness, and then I just hit. It was like falling onto concrete, and I instantly knew. I knew that I'd done something serious. So if you go to the next slide, I think the next, like that's me with about to get half the Atlantic on my head. That's like the worst place you ever want to be. So if you go to the next slide, so pretty quickly, I was on the beach. And the fortunate thing, so the thing, I knew, I pretty much, like I landed, I went through the washing machine scenario. I knew I'd broken my back pretty much. I could just tell. But they couldn't get to me. The rescue guys couldn't get to me straight away. I had another wave break on my head, like another 40, 50 foot wave, just like break right in front of me. I can remember then was on the first wipeout, I never pulled my vest, like I never my inflate vest. But on the second wave that broke on me, I pulled my inflate vest, so I floated up pretty quickly. They managed to rescue me. They got me to the beach. And all the guys that we work with are all obviously experienced watermen, and a lot of us have lifeguarding experience. And I've worked as a lifeguard on Croy Beach for 6 or 7 years, and I knew instantly I was like, look, just you got to put me in this is broken back scenario. Like it was really smooth, like really smooth. Net brace on, like stabilized. I was in the hospital within about half an hour. I had X-rays, and they pretty much confirmed what I already knew. It was just like it was a compression fracture of my L2, which I think I was really lucky. It was a stable compression, so they decided not to operate, and it was just a lot of rehab. So if you go to the next slide now, it's I think it was possibly one of the worst injuries. I think I was pretty unfortunate. It was one of the worst injuries that you can get, but I was I was unfortunate to get such a heavy injury, but at the same time I think I was really fortunate as well, because it could have been a lot worse. But also, like I used that injury as a sort of opportunity, really, I suppose. And I learned loads about my training, my rehab, loads about myself. And it made me sort of, the worst thing about like being injured, but also like sports injuries, you question a lot about, like what am I doing? Is this really what I want to be doing? And, is it worth it? But also, you're like, the only things I like doing is sport, and that's the only thing I couldn't do was sport. So I had to relearn to love doing, my rehab and enjoy the things that necessarily weren't on the top of my priority list, really. I got really good at trans abs, walking around in a hydro pool for a lot of hours, doing knee raises, and I had the opportunity to sort of basically just build my body from scratch again, and it gave me the opportunity to sort of focus and come back stronger, which is goes on to, I think, the last image of the slides. But so this is the hurricane is Epsilon. It was in October 29th. So this is just last year, beginning of this season. So this is like, like back to probably one of the biggest waves I've ever caught again, and that was always the dream, like it was the focus. Like a lot of people would sort of, like when you have big injuries, people always like, oh, that's probably it now. You're going to give up, or you're going to retire, or you're going to just, go back to plumbing. And that, I don't think at any point I ever was like, I was never like going to go back to plumbing. I was always like, I want a bigger wave. Like I'm not going to go out on a fail, or an injury, and it was always, I'd focus. I love those giant rights, and I'd sort of been dreaming and visualizing of surfing a giant right, and this storm came along in October last year, end of October last year, and it just gave me that opportunity, you know. And it was like, you know, 2.5, almost 3 years after my breaking my back, and you know, it was almost like, yeah, like this is the day, you know, and this is the day I'm going to get it, and this was definitely, like, to date, this is, for me, this is the biggest. I'm not going to say it's the biggest wave ever, but like, because maybe we'll get a bit bigger, you know, this year. But for me, so far it's the biggest wave I've ever surfed, you know. So far it's the biggest wave I've ever surfed. Hopefully I'll surf bigger, but so yeah, I'm stoked.
We're talking earlier about how we measure these, but how big do you reckon that one was, Andy?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, this is definitely, without a doubt, like, it felt the fastest I've ever been on a surfboard, and just the whole thing was just in slow motion, you know. Like, not just me, but like, I saw surfers on this storm get like, there's numerous surfers got waves of probably around like 80 feet, you know. So, like, you know, I think, like, every surfer who surfed this storm was this swell that day, you know, like, got their biggest wave ever. You know, it was just, you don't get conditions like this that often, and that's the thing. It's kind of hard. Like, it's not like many sports where you get a fixture list, or you have your schedule for the year and you train up to those points. It's like, you never really know when the next biggest day is coming, and so you've always got to be ready, you know, or like, you know, and that's, for me, that's great motivation. It really helps. It really helps.
And you can surf there all year round, just waiting for that big wave again.
No, well, the season's it's the, obviously, North Atlantic winter, so it kicks off like October and then runs to about March. So the best times of year, we get the biggest storms like in January and February, but they often come with bad conditions like wind. And often October and November are the best conditions with light winds. It's warm, you know, it's a bit warmer, and we often get the best conditions October, November.
And I noticed, obviously, when Garrett first found Nazare, is that fair to say he sort of discovered that area?
Well, he didn't. People have been surfing Nazare for, you know, like, for a long time. Like, you know, there's a huge bodyboarding scene and a surf scene there, but they just never been surfing it like big. You know, they've been surfing it to a certain size, and then it was just hard work, you know. And Garrett was actually invited by the City Hall for a tourism project. Just, you know, because they knew that the waves were big, but they needed someone with experience to take it on, you know, to help them. And so Garrett was there from 2010 doing that, and you know, I was just right time, right place, and fortunate to sort of get sucked along for the ride, you know.
And obviously, from the first video of you on a jet ski, he saw your talent, shall we say? So what did you do wrong in that first video that you then learned from with the jet ski?
To be honest, I never showed Garrett that video until about, you know, 4 years later. I don't think he would have. I don't think he would have called me up if he had seen that video. So I think, look, experience. You know, I just didn't have a. You know, it's just didn't have. I just didn't have the experience and didn't have the knowledge. You know, and it just takes time. But for me, it's just, I think it was just that opportunity of having, you know, Garrett call me up, you know, and say, oh, you know, can you come down and do it? But also, I think, I don't know whether it's stupidity or like just sort of saying, you know, yeah, or yeah, I'm going to do it. And, you know, even though really, you know, I think if I've been brutally honest, you know, I wasn't up to the job, you know, but I sort of made, you know, I saw it as an opportunity and was sort of that stubborn that, you know, I made it work, you know.
Shows perseverance. You get your opportunity and you take it, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, and you have to, you know, it doesn't come out overnight. I think maybe that's with Garrett, as he maybe saw that in me, like, okay, right, this guy's not the best, but maybe he's willing to learn, you know. And I think that for him, when he's choosing the team or putting that together, which he was at that point, you know, he's okay, right, I need a crew of guys to help me surf the biggest waves, you know. He saw that in me, you know, like, okay, right, he's not the best, but he's willing to learn, you know. So
I think Giles is just trying, there's a couple of questions in there, but we're just trying to figure out if anybody wants to ask you live rather than us just asking the questions for you. But one of the questions we had for you, Andrew, was, you know, in any kind of big sport, and people have to put a lot of effort and sacrifices into it, what kind of sacrifices have you made to reach the pinnacle of big wave surfing?
I wouldn't say I'm at the pinnacle of big wave surfing, but yeah.
Okay, all right. We should have got Garrett on, should we? Right, we'll just
yeah, you got the wrong guy, man. The sacrifices, do you know, like, you could go on about sacrifices, but it's for me that none of them have been sacrifices, because it's all been a dream, you know. Like, it's been it's just something, if you really, really want it, you know, it's not it's not a sacrifice, you know, like, and I know that's, you know, like, all the hours of training, but I love the training, you know, like, I love surfing, I love the training, I love the swimming, you know, I love all of it.
Yeah.
You know, and the injuries are just part of any sport or whatever you do, you know, like, they're huge down days, years, weeks, I don't know, like, there's been some pretty bad ones, you know, but again, it's just part of it, you know?
Cool.
And so, yeah.
So I have a question from Murillo. I'm not going to pretend to be able to pronounce his name correctly, so I'll ask him to do that. So I'm just going to try and get him to ask you a quick question. So I'm just going to add him in here.
I think he might be a surfer.
There we go.
Hi, Andrew.
Hey, mate. How's it going?
Giles, hi, Stuart. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Thank you for adding me and for giving this opportunity to hear a bit of Andrew's history and experience. So the question I'd like to do to Andrew is, if it wasn't for the injury, were you doing complementary training besides surfing? And what kind of?
Yeah, I was, and I have, but I think so. Before my injury, actually, before I broke my back, I'd just done like a 2-week quite intense training period with my trainer Blakey, and we were doing a lot of mobility, a lot of pool stuff. And a lot of like functional fitness sort of stuff, cardio. What I've changed up a little bit now is I've put in more actual gym weights. So and I've continued that since I broke my back. I do a lot more squatting, leg press, you know, everything loading my shoulders and loading my spine.
Get a big support on all the body.
Yeah, and rather than I continue doing that all year now. So rather than just do, you know, like you know, you might do a period. I'm going to do gym set for a month or 2 months. You know, like now I do it all year round.
And how long do you practice every day, and for how long?
So with the gym sort of stuff, I just try and get like 2 good sessions in the gym a week. Okay. But sometimes you get 3 or 4, and other times you might even get none in a week. You know, depending on your like either surf or other commitments and things like that. Nice. I look for two good sessions a week is like my goal. And it same goes with like, I like to swim. I like to get, you know, a couple swim sessions in a week, but sometimes I get more, and you know, other times if there's waves, you don't. I never like beat myself up bloody, you know, miss a swim session. Like, my goal is to surf as much as possible and enjoy it.
Yeah, of course. If it's flat, you can do some more complementary training if there's waves.
but training for surfing, the best is surfing. So if I can be in the sea enjoying it, and it's all about, for me, it's just enjoying it, like getting a few waves, having fun, and
Super.
and then as a result.
Can I ask just one more question?
Yeah, man.
So if it wasn't the call from Garrett, do you think you would have had the same opportunity to be where you were at right at the moment? Meaning that was the true call, the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think I would have been on I was spending a lot of time in Ireland, surfing a lot there, and Ireland gets huge, and there's some amazing slabs, they get giant. I think the thing that changed it for me was that the fact that Nazare gets so big so often. So I was getting the opportunity to experience 20-foot waves, 30-foot waves, 40-foot waves numerous times, like a season, whereas like in Ireland, you might get like 4 or 5 days a year that get 20 feet or plus. Where like Nazare, like you get stints where you just wishing it would be small, like how can it be this big, like this often, so it enables you to train so much. So therefore you just, the natural levels just rise. You get more confident. You get to try different kit. You get different safety kit. So I think it gave me an opportunity to be a lot better, a lot quicker.
And you need to have a lot of time at your will to be able to practice. You cannot have like a full-time job and go for big wave surfing.
Well, I think like I for me, like I we just talked about sacrifices. That was one of the sacrifices that I did. I quit my full-time job to sort of do less paid part-time jobs. Just to be in Portugal, to be in Nazaré. And I to be honest, like I never in a million years thought I'd ever be a professional surfer. It was just like, this is what I love doing. This is what I want to do. I love it. And then things sort of fell into place after that. Really.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you, Murillo.
Thank you as well, Andrew.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, and Stuart. See you around.
Sorry, I cut him off a little bit early. So there was another question. It's from Emma Field, and just saying, do you use any special visualization techniques? You mentioned about that a little bit with the fateful wave from 2018.
Yeah, I do always like to visualize what I want and think about it and surf it in your mind. I've done it on numerous, like some of the best waves I've ever had, and some of the best waves I've ever had, like I've already surfed those waves before I've surfed them, 100%. Right. I can, like there was a wave in 2012 in Ireland, which was probably the biggest wave I've ever had in Ireland at that time, and the day before, like I sat on the headland at Mulletmore and by myself and sort of just thought about what I wanted to surf and how I was going to surf it and the wave, and I just replayed that wave like 1,000 times, like in my head. And then the next day, like the first wave that I got was that wave, and I like it all happened in slow motion. I'm like, oh, this is it. I've already surfed this wave, and I know exactly what to do. I know exactly how I'm going to surf it. It's done. This is it. So yeah, I think visualizing stuff is just, it's the key, man. It's like, it's great. It's great to sort of go through those moves or those lines, or it's good.
I think, Giles, we've got another question.
Yeah, I'm waiting on a few people responding on me, but there's a question from Mark Westwood saying you've had some injuries and some ups and downs on the way and big wipeouts. Do you now feel a bit immortal in the waves, or is it a psychology of get back on the horse, or how is it for you psychologically?
Yeah, like I definitely, like I'm pretty cautious, and I feel that every time you're rolling the dice, and I think I am, like now, like I'm 41. I'm definitely less gun ho than I was probably, when I was 31. Like I'm far more calculated. But also I know that when you're dealing with like these big storms, and they're big, sometimes like I feel like they're not always going to happen again. So sometimes that there are moments when, for me it is worth like putting it all on the line and doing that really critical line, or that really, but I'd never go into something which I knew I wasn't going to make. Like I every wave that I go into, like I honestly believe I'm going to make this, and this is going to be, I don't go in like half-heartedly thinking, oh, this is a bit dangerous, I probably won't make this, and it might get injured, or like you go in the ocean, and I got a plan, I've got a safety crew, I've got all my personal safety kit. Like I'm not planning to, I'm like
doing it
self-stuck mode, like I'm like, okay, right, this is it, and this is, because it's all about surfing. It's not about your last wave, it's about your next wave, and it's about my career. It's about, I want it to be another, like, I want to be surfing big waves when I'm 51, so yeah, the injuries are just part of it.
It's such a professional thing, and you talk about it with such plan and everything. I wonder what people's visualization was when they read the headline, "Plumber goes big wave surfing." You've rocked up to the beach.
Yeah.
I'll give that a go.
Yeah.
That's a bit of an unfair one, I think, given the amount of preparation
absolutely.
and years of training you've had. So I'm gonna pop over to someone called James Carter, and he's got a question for you. So I'm just gonna allow him to talk. You should be ready.
Yeah, fine.
Hi, James.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks for the chat. It's very, very interesting. I'm a surfer as well, so it really is easy to visualize just how big those waves are, and people who don't surf have no idea of the power. But you've mentioned Ross Clark-Jones and Garrett McNamara, obviously both big wave legends. But if you had a choice, who would you like to surf with? Anyone, either alive or dead.
Oh, goodness me. It's like I had, like, and I think this is the thing. Like I never in a million years ever believed that I'd be hanging out or like chatting with like Ross Clark-Jones or Garrett McNamara and those guys. So like that, they're probably, that they are the guys. I think I saw Laird Hamilton was in Nazaré last year, and watching him foil, and seeing his approach and stuff, it's just amazing, and I think, that those are the top guys in the sport, and just being able to see that already, I think that's enough, but I think the other guy, obviously, and he's not a big wave surfer, it's obviously Kelly Slater as well, like being able to share a few sessions with him would be pretty good, I think.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Very quick. Paddle or toe?
Either. I love like my background was obviously, coming from the southwest. I learned stuff at Salton and Croyd and paddled, and I love paddling Nazaré when it's big. But it comes a point where it's just sometimes it's just super fun to toe. So I'm happy to do both.
And this is a question from me, but is it a speed thing that it gets you in the position on the wave easier, or what's the benefit of it?
It's just so to a point when you're on your own two arms, it's like you're when the waves are shifting and then moving, it just becomes really hard to get in the right position. And obviously the conditions can be windy, so it's like trying to paddle a big board into like a wave that's moving really fast. So using a jet ski, you can maneuver around a bigger playing field quicker and get into waves. So obviously your wave count goes up a lot higher. But also like rescue, trying to duck dive a 10'6" gun, like it's not happening, So you need jet skis to get you around the lineup and rescue, So like, like it's great to have, it's great not to have jet skis, but it's also really great to have them. Like they are quite key.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Thanks, James.
Thank you, James.
So there's a lot of questions actually. So I'm just trying to go through them as much as we can. Quick question from William Haig: are you ever going to let your kids tow you into a big wave? Is that something that they would be?
Yeah. Both. My daughter Honey, she's actually pretty good at driving the jet ski. She's really calm and she's got a good head for it. So hopefully she's 13 now. So hopefully at some point I'll let her tow me around. We'll probably start in North Devon first, and then she'll come out to Nazareth at some point, I'm sure. And then Ace, he's a little bit young. He can drive the ski, but he's a little bit young yet. He's 8, so maybe in a few years.
And you mentioned briefly about foiling. A long time ago, you and I were on a wake surf. Wakeboarding, and you tried foiling for the first time. So do you do much foiling? Is it? I've seen a few posts on social media where you've done some. Is it something you do a bit more?
I have a love-hate relationship with foiling. Like I love it, but it's so hard. And like you have great days where like it's like the best thing ever, and then like you have sessions where you just never want to go near the thing ever again. But yeah, I'm still like I've been foiling now for on and off for a few years, and it's still a learning curve. I'm still learning loads all the time, and there's so much to know about equipment and the approach and different speeds, different foils, and yeah, it's good. But it's good fun though. It's good fun.
For the people that are unaware, a foil is effectively a board with a hydroplane underneath, and it lifts you up out of the water. So very different skill.
Very fast. You go really fast. Really fast. Yeah.
There's a question from Robert Peters. Has the pandemic affected you much in what you do, and what effect has it had?
Yeah, well, like it has. Like everyone, I think. Firstly, it's obviously the movement sort of stuff. So this year, usually like I would be based. I spend a bit of time in Portugal, then I'd go home, and then I'd fly to and fro, and then I might go to America or Hawaii for swells. This year, I just had to sort of put up camp in Portugal, and that's it. So I haven't been home for a while, which is a shame. But then it's just one of those things, everyone's going through not normal working circumstances at the minute, I just feel really fortunate I can still surf, but also again, like it's hard to plan for marketing and like my own money through obviously marketing and sponsorship budgets, and you can imagine that they're the first things to get slashed, so that sort of makes hard to plan. You don't know, what projects you got going on, what paychecks you got coming in, and things like that. So yeah, but it's the same for everyone.
And a question from Natalie Chin: if it wasn't surfing and that wasn't the thing that took your heart, and it wasn't plumbing, what would be the sport that you think you might have chosen to do?
Do you know? I had quite serious asthma, so like I was terrible at like running stuff and football and rugby and stuff like that. I could just never keep up with everyone. I think through the injuries that I had from surfing, I found cycling, and it's something that I never really thought I'd get into, especially like all the lycra stuff. But I'm so into the lycra and road biking now, it's a joke. So I think it'd be cycling. Love it. It's a great way. Like it's like through the first lockdown, when I was in Devon, like there's so many good routes and so many hills, and it was just like a great way to see countryside, you know, like cycling around. I loved it.
One of our colleagues is in here, and he's asked a few questions, and I can feel him typing a question about cycling as we speak. So, another question from Paige. When you're about to drop in on a wave, do you have much time to decide which way to go on the wave? Is it gut feeling or snap decision, or?
It's funny. Those sort of things are just, it's just, there's no mechanical thought process. It's just like, just happens. I don't know. I think it's like when you hit a thing and you go into flow, you know, like, it's just like, I'm not thinking left, right, you know, what am I going to do on this wave? It just all, you know, it sort of happens really. And I think, you know, as a surfer, like I feel that I naturally make those decisions quite well. But I often look at footage. So part of the process of filming things is to be quite critical when you look back on your footage, and you do sometimes think, why did I go right on that one? Why I should have gone left? You know, like, but yeah, it's you know, but yeah, it's just a natural thing. I don't really think about it, you know. It's just.
Giles, you're on mute. Sorry.
You're on mute, I think, Giles.
Classic.
I keep muting myself just so you're not you're not hearing me furiously typing. So is there anywhere in the world that you haven't surfed that you would love to? And that's from Thomas Evans.
No, but there's certain places that I want to go, like certain waves that I'd love to go to. So there's a wave in Tasmania in Australia, which has been on the sort of hit list for a few years, but I've had I've had a few summers off with injuries, so haven't managed to get down there. But maybe this year. It's called Shipstone's Bluff. It's like a crazy right-hander, and it's sort of one of the waves that I've been looking at for a long time, thinking, oh, I'd love to go there, and so hopefully at some point it will happen.
I was going to just take one product related question. We know that you wear CTI braces. What was the reason that you had to start wearing them, and why did you choose that brand?
So I've had 3 ACL reconstructions. I had the first one when I was like in my early 20s, and I wore like a brace for a bit, and then I stopped wearing the brace, and then I re-ruptured my knee, and then they had reconstruction again on it, and then I was just like, do you know what, like, I'm just going to wear like a knee brace the whole time, just a protection, you know, like, not out of necessity. So like, I do all my training and that without a knee brace, but surfing, I wear a knee brace. So the CTI, like, it's actually super light, and it's so thin, so it doesn't get in the way or damage your board when you surf, when you're lying down, and it's just like nothing. They last forever. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they're really, like, they don't, none of the bits rust or anything like that. And so they're super light, and the only thing I change on it is the straps. So.
And you do occasionally ask for different paint jobs and things.
Yeah, so, obviously, yeah, but that's, you know, like, got to keep, you know.
Current one's the Union Jack, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, so you know, I think for me, like, it's just that the braces, like, now, like, I'm at a point with my body, like I feel really strong, but when on the biggest days, like, the knee braces always go on. It's just a precaution, you know, because like, I don't want to go through like another surgery or, you know, reconstruction, you know, so braces go on.
And I think I've got to get one more question in from that colleague. This is Emlyn, and he's an avid road cyclist, and he's saying downhill bike crash on tarmac or wipe out on a wave, which hurts the most.
Oh, wipe out on wave any day. Like it's funny. I'm actually a bit of a wimp when it comes to going really fast downhill. Like some, like, you think people will assume that, like, I bet he's so, you know, like, but I'm such a, like, I'm on the brakes, no risks. Like, there's like, there's no way that I'm risking falling off a bike going down a hill in Lycra like 60 miles an hour. Like, no chance, not a chance.
I suppose it's as much as you like cycling, you don't want it to get in the way of your real passion with surfing. So
yeah. There's that. Yeah, I think that's what like you become. I think that's what like you know I am quite cautious, and it's all about surfing. It's not about yeah. Although I love cycling, it's not about how fast we can rail.
Awesome. So it just remains to say thank you very much. It's been really, really good fun and really nice to chat to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I hope I haven't gibbered on too much. Like,
no, don't worry. It was great. And we've had loads of really good questions. So really appreciate people for coming on. It takes quite a few people have been a bit nervous about doing it. So thank you for the people that have come on and asked questions. We really appreciate it. So you can look forward to some perhaps normal viewing from us. So a bit of a departure with Andrew, but we've known him for a long time, and he's always good to chat to. So personally, I've known him for quite a while through fitting his CTIs. So we will be kind of back to a more scientific set of presentations in the future, but I hope you appreciate something a little bit different and certainly interesting, and an interesting area that we touch on as a company, and hopefully help people like Andrew get out and do amazing things. So we'll be coming in the next month with a couple more webinars. Thanks again to Andrew, and we'll see you relatively soon. Look out in your inbox for the next set of webinars. Thanks very much.